Hey there everybody, Eric from Outer Limitless coming at you today with another video. Now in a prior video, you saw me go through the details of these Vidda Pro Trousers from Fjallraven. These are an excellent pair of pants, good quality durable material, and something that I've basically worn for a period of time now and realized that they're a good quality piece of gear. One of the features of the G-1000 material that Fjallraven uses on these pants is the ability to wax them. Adding the wax gives these pants additional quality durability and on top of that, good water resistance. Now I've purchased myself a large bar of wax. There is a large and a small, and this is considered large. But the thing that I think is kind of funny is that for a large bar of wax, it is quite small. Now, even though this is small, it probably doesn't matter too much. I mean, how much wax am I really gonna need? I mean, I only own this one pair of pants right now with the G-1000, and so I'm sure that this one bar is gonna be more than sufficient for a number of treatments. Now, I've watched a few videos already on different people doing this. I've seen multiple different methods. You can either apply the wax and use an iron, or you can apply the wax and use a hair dryer. Now, I've been going back and forth in my mind about how I wanted to approach this. I think both give you probably reasonable, ample results, but I could see why it would go one way or another with either method. And for me, the decision ultimately comes down to how much grief do I want to get from my wife. So why do I say grief from my wife? Well, I'll tell you what. In a prior video, I had a pretty nasty mess with some wax making my homemade fire starters, and there was wax everywhere. Not to mention, I almost caught my house on fire. And so I've heard about wax from my wife and the projects that I do for probably about 3 months now. And so I have to ask myself, do I want to hear about another project using wax? And what my mind's telling me that is, if first of all I use the iron, well, if there's any wax left on that iron, she's gonna know and I'm gonna be in deep trouble. So I was thinking maybe I'll use her hair dryer, which doesn't actually touch the wax, but then she'll know I used her hair dryer. That to me is a little less concerning than having to deal with wax on the iron. So I will be using the hair dryer for this and hopefully give me the results I'm looking for. Now I'm just going to approach this a little bit methodically, covering one section of the pants at a time, working my way up both legs on one side, flip them over, go up both legs on the other side, and then I'll work the top side of the pants. So basically all you do, from what I know, is start coloring this stuff on the pants until you get a good quality coating over the entire fabric. I'm going to pay close attention to the seams, getting a nice coat on all the seams, all the way down to the bottom, and doing my best to cover the cuff. As I'm doing this, there's not too much that comes off on my fingers. It's mostly coming off on the fabric. It's not really tacky. I mean, maybe a tiny little bit, but not really too tacky. The bar is pretty hard. It's not a soft consistency. I mean, you can hear it as I kind of work it on the table. Again, focusing on the seams, trying to get a nice quality coating right on these seams. And if you really want to take the time, I'm just going right under this pocket, just enough, just to get some coverage. That to me is a little bit of a vulnerability there if you don't pay attention. right, so now that I have this prepared, let's apply some heat and see what happens. Just gonna take a second for the hairdryer to warm up. And there you go. Starting to see that stuff melt in. That's pretty much it. I mean, pretty straightforward. It does not take long. You know, it's gonna take me a while to do the entire pair, but at the same time, that went pretty quick with the hairdryer. And so now just a quick comparison of the two fabrics side by side. This one has been waxed, this one has not. I mean, you can see a little bit of remnants from doing the waxing, but at the same time, I probably could heat it a little bit more and get that to blend in better. And so it didn't really change the color. I mean, if it did, it's not noticeable. I can say that these do feel just a tiny bit stiffer now. They're not quite as soft. I don't know if you can really tell on camera, but as I grab these, you can see how easily the material moves around. And then here, as I put my hand in, it's just kind of stiff. So that is definitely the treated wax, making these a little stiffer, but they'll loosen up over time as I wear them. All right, so I have some work to do ahead of me to go through this entire pair of pants. So I'm gonna get to it, and at the end, I'll show you how they came out. Again, just focusing on the seams, getting a nice quality thick layer of wax right on those seams. Just kind of experimenting with different parts of the bar to see what works. It's definitely hard to use the big flat part. It's a little easier to grip it from the side. This is actually scalloped. I should show you that real quick. So if you can take a quick look, this side of the bar is actually scalloped. It is not on this side, but on this side it is, which gives you a nice little groove for your fingers just to sit in there and get a good grip on that thing while you go to work. So what I'm finding is certain sections of the pants are easier to deal with than others. Any of the long sections without any real snaps or pockets or little gusseted areas go a little bit quicker. And you can see on this nice flat part of the back side of the lower leg, I'm able to basically just run the bar down nice and quick. The first thing I did was trace out my seams really hard, and now I'm just going back and kind of filling in the rest of the fabric here. And you can see at this point it goes reasonably quick. I mean, this process here is going to take me a while in total, but each one of these little sections is not too bad in terms of how long it takes to actually get it done. So waxing the pocketed areas is not difficult. It just takes a little bit of attention to detail. So the way I'm approaching it is basically, again, by tracing my seams, making sure I do a real good job tracing those seams out. Tracing all the seams along the top and bottom of the pockets. Lifting the flap, doing all the seams on the inner side of the pocket. Using the little corners and edges of the bar to get in where I need to. And even the inner side of the flap. You'll notice too that on these pockets, they are gusseted. So I'm doing my best to get under all these flaps, trying to avoid having little vulnerable areas where the water can eventually work its way in. I really do want these to have a good quality water repellent ability. So I'm just really taking the time to try to do a real nice job, get a good quality coat over all surfaces on these pants. So, all right, at this point, I have gone over this entire pair of pants, and I'll tell you, it takes a real long time to do a good quality, thorough job. I'm actually coming close to the 2-hour mark. So at this point, I'm curious about how waterproof these really are. This seems a little bit crazy, but what the heck? Let's go for it. Just pour some water in there, and the entire thing is just one bead. That's pretty cool. I mean, if you look at that, that water is just running all around and absolutely zero penetration into the fabric. Let's see if I can even get it back in the glass. Whoop. Let's get a closer look at that. Literally, no water has absorbed into that fabric. That is pretty cool. And so in those 2 hours, I've covered the entire pair of pants one time. I do intend on going over these reinforced areas probably a second time. Now what I can tell you is at this point the material does feel quite stiff. It does not appear to have darkened up in any sort of way, but it is somewhat stiff. Now there are a few things that I'd like to go through which are, I think, important takeaways from going through this process. And the first thing is, because it takes a real long time, you need to think about this piece of wax, this bar, as a tool. And so, like I told you before, I bought the large bar, but you definitely want to think about what size your hands are and how this bar is going to feel in your hands. It is quite possible that the large bar would not necessarily be for everybody. And so what I'm thinking is one of a couple of things. Basically, I don't think you need to think about how much wax is in this bar and how much coverage you're going to get and how long the bar needs to last you. That's irrelevant. It's all about the comfort of this tool in your hands while you're doing the job, because it will come into play after going at it for a couple hours. It's a lot of work, and you need to think about this wax as a tool. The other thing I'm thinking is, because of all the little nooks and crannies in these pants and the need to get into some tight little areas, it might be possible that it would be worth having a large bar and a small bar. I only have the large bar. I have not been able to try the small bar, but I'd be very curious to see what the small bar does, how it feels in my hands, and what it would be like as a tool as I apply this wax on these pants. Now, another takeaway that I got from this is what I will coin to be my trace the seams method. Now, that worked out very well for a couple of reasons. First is, as you're tracing the seams, what you're doing is basically carving out yourself a small area that you're going to focus on. So what I would do is I would do maybe the left and the right hand knees, or the left and the right hand lower section there, to basically carve out a smaller task that I could go after and not feel overwhelmed by trying to take on the entire garment at once. The other thing that the trace the seams method helped with, basically every time I'd come to a new section of the pants, I would trace the seams again. So what that means is all my seams at all these critical points have been actually waxed twice already. So that's definitely a good amount of wax built up in these areas right at some of the vulnerable points where you need it. You know, taking care of your gear is very important. It's one thing to use it and to get out into the field and to utilize the equipment, but at the same time, it's very important to maintain your gear. It's expensive stuff. We spend a lot of money on these things, and so every now and then you need to take a step back and really focus on maintaining it. And this, for this particular case, is just another example of that. You know, it's like anything. Some people like to wax their cars, other people like to wax their pants. I mean, this is kind of a funny thing, but at the same time, if you think about what it's doing, it's providing the material with a lot more durability, water repellence, and the ability to basically keep yourself in a better place while you're out in the wilderness. I mean, let's be serious. You can sometimes be subjected to some difficult situations, and the last thing you want to do is find yourself wet and cold. And so by maintaining your pants, getting a good coat of wax in them, and really giving these the full ability to help protect you is pretty important. So all right, guys, thanks for stopping by. I hope you liked what you saw. I hope you found it a little bit informative. If you liked what you saw, please like, share, and subscribe. And as always, thanks for stopping by. Take care now. I'll see you soon.